I am doing great. How about you?
I am doing wonderfully. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yes, me too.
It's
We had a great week. It's like, oh my gosh,
we had
so
such
much,
a great week.
so much has happened. So many amazing things, building, growing, and we just had an amazing session show on Instagram Live. So if you're not there with us, we do that 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and that's on IG Live at Core Women. And then we come over here. So if IG is your thing, go there before this.
It is so much fun. I mean, so much fun. We had a blast. We had lots of people on with us, participating in the conversation. We love it when you participate. You know what makes our day really great is when you participate. What makes our day really great is when you participate. It's like a rhyme.
We're gonna make a shirt.
You are part of this show. You are part of the Life, Love, and Money show with Summer and Jen. You are the ones who help us make it happen, who bring it together. Like we are taking it to the mat, and you are going on the mat with us. We're doing this. Woo, 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 woo. So I am so excited, Jen. We just were like a total powerhouse this week. We did some stuff that just was like awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, it's just been a jam-packed week, but you know, when you push and you know what, you know, when you have a clear vision of where you want to go, isn't it amazing? Like when you're doing something for yourself, like you almost have to stop yourself. But when you're doing it for somebody else, like, you know, a job or something that you don't like or you hate, not that I'm saying jobs are bad. What I'm saying is you're talking about you don't love it and things like that. You don't wake up excited for it. Like it's such a different energy. Like you just like looking at the clock. Like, don't you feel like when we're working on our stuff, you're like, the time is going too fast?
Oh my gosh. It's like there's never enough of it. And here's the thing. We wake up just like knowing that it's exciting. If we want to make it happen, we're the ones to make it happen. Yeah. And we look at like the end of this week, it's Thursday, and we created so much stuff, folks. Oh my gosh, I cannot even tell you. Like, well, let's give them a little taste of what we've created. So,
go for it.
Oh, okay. So we created a media kit, and Jen is a graphic designer on top of an incredible, money coach. And so she put together this amazing media kit for us that it's going to help us when we do our pitches for radio, when we reach out to other people in regards to TV, or if we want to be on a show or whatever it is that we want to do in relation to, what we're constructing with the Life, Love, and Money show, we are able to take that incredible digital document and just give it to people. It is beautiful. And there's linkables in there. So
is that a word? I like that. Linkables?
Well, I'm making it a word.
I love that word. I'm like, it's cute. I'm gonna use that.
So there's linkables in there. And then we also finished up our what else did we do? Oh my gosh.
Website.
Our what?
Website.
Yes, that thing. Oh my gosh. Our Life, Love, and Money website. Oh my gosh. Yes. This is like, I seriously went to bed when the rooster was getting up. Okay. So I was like, it's 5 o'clock in the morning again. So seriously, this is what it's just because this is so exciting and it doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like something that's part of you that you just tend to like keep doing it because it's so exciting, because the outcome, like if I didn't start this 2 years ago, like with Core Women, I wouldn't be here where I am today. Like, and if you didn't start with Jen Money Coach, like, you wouldn't be where you are today. So like, it's a dream. It really is that we're making come true.
It is. And it's so exciting. I mean, this woman is amazing. We totally hit it off from the beginning. And so when she first had this idea of this show and approached me with it, I didn't even have to. She's like, well, think about it. I was like, no, I'm in. Like I just already knew, because here's the thing. it almost doesn't matter what the thing is. To an extent it does.
Yeah.
But the more important thing is, do you have synergy with the person that you're going to be creating something with?
Totally.
There's a lot of like, incubation period, like when you're having a baby and it's like you're building things, it's growing, it takes a long time, money's not being made immediately, and that's just the reality of it. But we have so much fun along the way. We're on the same page, and it just makes it so much more fun. And so again, we have a lot of similar core values too, and we have the same kind of vision and how we want to help people. So it's just so important. It's so important to have like really solid, good relationships in your life, because it all truly, it comes down to that for me. And when you have those kinds of people like you, Summer, I just treasure you so much. When you have good people in your life, it allows you to have such joy and fulfillment.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to people that are complaining, or they're sad, or they're not happy where they're at.
Yeah.
It's always because of something, that the relationships in their life, whether that's their kids, their parents, their partner, their friends, or lack of, it usually revolves around that. And so it's so important that you surround yourself. I mean, you hear this all the time, but I'm telling you, like, I'm really in this space in my life where I'm like, it is amazing. It is amazing. This is like the happiest I've been. And I really attribute it to making sure that everything's in alignment. And so all these things we're talking about, and this is kind of what Summer was talking about, these are the things that we're working on, because we want to help you guys achieve those things in your life. And what are those steps you need to take? And so we have groups, mastermind groups, like those are all coming up, but that's all I'll say for now.
Oh, yeah. So our website is going to talk more about what's coming up. We're going to talk about this next week because we're really excited about it. We're wrapping everything up and getting everything, finished, and the fine details completed. And we are going to share this information with you next week. It is so exciting. Jen and I have been working our tails off, and we are so excited about what's coming down the pike. I mean, it's just, we have been doing so much, and we already do a lot, but this week was like, we were powerhouses of like, let's get stuff completed. Let's get things finished. Let's get things done, and let's make it look really good so that we have these great products to offer you guys. So we are excited about this, but we came up with the show because this show, the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen, is really our opportunity to give back to community. It's our opportunity to talk to you. It's our opportunity to answer your questions. So we're going to answer a question this week because we thought, this question's a really good one, and it happens a lot. There are reasons it happens, but let me tell you the question. Shall I go over it, Jen? Are you ready?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, so the question is, we got this question submitted to us. Do you know that according to back up. Whenever my husband and I disagree, he always tries to compare our situation with a friend or another couple's situation to support his position. It drives me crazy. This is the question we received. How do I tell him to knock it off? It makes no sense to compare our situation with others since our circumstances has a unique set of factors. There's the question. Comparing relationships with other people's relationship. Why do we do this? Well, I'm going to give you just a brief about why we do some of this. So some studies have shown that at least 10% of us, and again, like Jen mentioned this in our earlier show, that seems kind of low. 10% of our thoughts are based on comparison in regards to relationships, wealth, intelligence, looks, success, and so forth and so on. Do you know in 1954, psychologist Leon Fetstinger, how that name gets me. Anyway, he developed something called the social comparison theory. And this is based on the idea that people evaluate their personal and social worth against others. This has grown significantly. Why do you think this is, Jen?
Social media. I mean, think about how much information is in your face nowadays compared to, I know what's happening to people in the Philippines. My relatives over there. Before, it wasn't, unless you got on the phone at 2 a.m, you wouldn't know anything. And the information is just so in your face nowadays. And so obviously that's going to lend to you being aware of it. And it plays a huge factor in why things are so different now compared to even 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Absolutely. It plays a huge part in, hold on, I'm writing something, a huge part. And if you want your comments up here, leave a comment, join us. We want to hear from you.
Yeah.
So social media plays a huge part in the paradigm of why we do this social comparison, right? Why this has changed so significantly over time. It has changed massively. And so many times we look at what we're seeing on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these different things in regards to our success, in regards to our relationship, in regards to what we have or don't have. And we do this to either motivate ourselves or find out, get motivated towards improving one's success or status or our relationships. So there is like a little bit of a positive, because sometimes that can really drive us to be like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to do this. Have you ever done that, Jen, where you look online and you're like, why am I not there yet? What can I do about it?
Yeah. I want to say something. Hi, Sandra. She said, and not everything you see on social is the whole story. Absolutely, you're so right.
Exactly.
And to further comment on what you asked, Summer, you know what? I'll admit too, especially for me, especially if they're around my age, if they're a woman and they're in the same field, it's like a triple whammy, because then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm only here and this person. And then it's even worse if they're younger, kicking butt at 25, and here I am in my 40s and I'm looking. It just gets worse, right? Because well, they built like a 7-figure real estate company before they went into financial services. And I see this all the time. And then I start comparing and I feel like I'm so behind, then I start thinking about the failures I made, the mistakes I made, the time I wasted on problems at that time when this person was building that. It just goes down this crazy rabbit hole, right? So I've been there, and it's just exasperated when the person is a woman around my age and then way ahead, or what seems to be.
Yeah.
And then I have to remember we are all walking our own journey.
And that is a critical point. We are all walking our own journeys. There are factors behind the scenes, behind those pretty pictures, behind those pictures of the big house and the glorious car and all that stuff. Hear me? Stuff.
Yeah.
All that stuff that you don't know what's happening. As a financial coach, Jen, have you run into people, and I'm sure you have, we've talked about this before, where I would love to see how many people are trying to keep up with A, B, and C, or the Joneses, so to speak, right? And how many of those people are in serious debt?
Oh, it's really interesting. I've told people, especially when especially at the time when I was a financial advisor, I was looking at people's statements and credit card debt and whatnot, because it's a big financial mess. Most people are not where they should be, and they're not on track. And oftentimes the people that you would think were doing great, and they had this giant house, and then they had 3 cars, and then they had all these different things, and they had these family trips, and it looked like they had all these timeshares, barely anything saved, barely even starting any retirement plan, debt up the yin yang. I mean, it was like a financial mess, but all we see is what's in the front. Yes. We just see it was, at that time, there wasn't as much social media, but I had to tell other people that were bringing themselves down. They're like, well, it looks like we're so behind and everybody else is doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys have 40,000 in, a plan, and other people have this debt and you only have 5,000. I had to make him realize it's all relative to, in your situation. You can't compare it. And what I was saying in when we were on IG was that a friend of mine who was another financial advisor, he said this wonderful quote. I never forgot it. And it says, you see the glory, but you don't know the story. You see the glory, but you don't know the story. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know how that person got there. You don't know if somebody inherited a ton of money because their parent passed away. You just don't know the story. You don't know what kind of problems some people had to go through, which is why you might be behind. Some people had to go through, experience a death or a divorce or whatever the case is. And everybody, like I said, everybody has their own journey. So when you compare, it's never apples to apples. And so give yourself that grace to not allow yourself to do that, because you are making a false comparison. You're taking like your behind the scenes, deleted scenes, comparing it to somebody's highlight reel. You're comparing it to their trailer. And
Yes.
it's not fair to you. And it's like somebody else's life. I will say I don't think all comparison is bad. It's
Yeah.
how you're using it. Because if you can use it to motivate or inspire you, but not to belittle yourself and talk all that negative self-talk, that's a different thing. That's a different thing. And so going back to this original question, we have to ask ourselves, like, what is this partner trying to achieve? Maybe there's something in that other couple that he or she's comparing to that they might and wish that they could have with you. So you have to dig a little deeper and find out, well, why are they comparing? It's not maybe, unless somebody's just, downright mean, there's probably a story. You might even discover that, hey, you know what? I love how they do date nights. I wish we could do that. It could be that kind of a comparison. But again, the other part of this too is like, it's not always what you say, it's also how you say it.
Yeah.
So that plays a huge, huge part in the way that you deliver whatever it is that you're trying to convey.
Oh, such good points. I'm going to take a step back here for a minute because I want to touch on some of the really great points that you made. First of all, let me just tell you, I lived in Okinawa for 3 years, right? And what I learned from living in Okinawa is people were happy even though they were minimalist. What I say is they may have had these houses that looked big, but they were actually small living spaces inside. And they might have had a couple of pans. They weren't suffering, they weren't hurting, but they didn't have like huge houses, huge cars. They had these little cars, they walked, they had bikes. They even had like these golf carts where they would go around the island essentially, right? And have covers for these things, right? And I thought to myself, what I really thought was, we don't, wow, these people are living minimally and are really happy. And they don't have everything that we have. We think big in America. We think huge houses, big cars, right? We're excessive, really. Yeah. And so what I learned is a kind of a minimalist style of living or thinking. And yes, I'm one of these Americans who definitely have a lot. I don't need anymore. But one of the things I told myself is when I get home, I'm not going out to buy more furniture. I'm not going out to do A, B, and C. I don't need it. Quite frankly, I don't need it. I actually need to purge some more, right? So those are some of the things I looked at in regards to like living minimally, and then just like kind of like what that meant to me, right? And again, we go back to our values, right? So when you go back to your relationships, how are your values aligning? The other thing that, that you had mentioned was you might be looking at somebody, but you're not seeing everything that's going on behind the scenes. Working with people, I can tell you over and over and over again, people have their own set of factors. Never compare those set of factors to your own, because you don't know those factors. All you're seeing is the joy. What was that quote again? You're seeing the joy, but not the...
Oh, you see the glory, but you don't know the story.
The glory, but you don't know the story. You don't know the story. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You just don't. It's like, I know my own family, my grandma's big house, all this great stuff. You didn't see what was happening behind behind the scenes. You didn't. There's a lot of stuff that was going on, and we certainly were one of those things. You didn't tell people what was going on, right? So it's like, it's not that it was wholly bad. It was more along the lines of there were a lot of intricacies, a lot of different factors, you just don't know what those are. So there's no point in comparing. Here's the thing, folks. As Jen mentioned, sometimes there is a point in comparison in regards to like that's helping us get motivated, or there's some intricacy about a relationship that you really like another couple does date night. And what we call that is upward social comparison and downward social comparison. So when you do upward social comparison, we compare ourselves to someone who is, or who we perceive to be, or performing better, right? Better than we are, essentially. In contrast, we also do the downward comparison, social comparison. And that is when we perceive that somebody is doing worse than we are. So this can sometimes motivate us in regards to, oh my gosh. And I know we've probably been there, like, oh my gosh, that motivated me to improve my station, my status, my whatever, right? but it can also promote judgmental behavior, feelings, mindset, bias, and being overly competitive. So really, or it can even perpetuate superior attitudes. So sometimes we just need to take a step back and we need to figure out ourselves and our own relationship. We need to look at that relationship and go, what is it that I want to improve? Reframe. Like Jen said, sometimes it's not about what you say, it's how you say it, right? And I'm going to add to that, like I did on on the other show that we were just on. What am I going to add? I'm going to add that if you see something that's happening in another relationship that you really like say date night, right? You're like, oh my gosh, they have date night every week or every month or whatever. Yeah. Then get busy. Create a date night. Create that date night. Don't wait.
I want to say real quick, Raj Monty is saying hi to you.
Oh, hey. Oh my goodness. Hello. So, hey. Oh, hey, Raj. Thank you so much for joining. What time is it over there in India? Oh my gosh. And thank you so much for staying. Okay. So here's the thing. You definitely want to not compare because that can hurt your relationship. Yeah, sometimes that motivates us. Like, say, for instance, you're looking at another couple and they have date night. Well, then start your own date night. But also, this comparison, some of the things it can cause, though, let me explain what this can cause when you do this point of comparison. Dissatisfaction. It can cause unrealistic expectations. It can cause a division or breakup in that relationship, or even just a breakup of the communication itself. So we, think about what it is that you want to amend in that relationship. And I'm going to go back to what Jen said. Think about what, and she said this in the last program. Remember, Jen, when you said, sometimes you got to make your list?
Yeah.
You want to tell them about this?
Yeah. Was it the nugget? That list?
It was the list about, your pros about about your relationship and going back to kind of the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we forget. We get so busy, right? And we get caught up. I mean, we can't even remember what we wore 2 days ago or what we ate, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't remember because we're so busy. And so think about it. As time goes on, weeks or months, and then you're running into these issues with your partner, you have to ask yourself, like, okay, what's really going on here? Am I losing perspective? And it's so important to even just write, and reflect. We talk about that a lot here, about reflecting. And list out, like, what are those things and those qualities that you admired in your partner? Like, we just move away from that. And it's because we're so caught up in the situation. We're so caught up in what's going on, and that we forget. And so sometimes, we're reminded, oh my goodness, you know what I just thought of this summer?
What?
Remember The Notebook?
Oh my gosh, I love The
Right?
Notebook.
So in The Notebook, remember he had a camera reminder, because if you have not seen The Notebook, it's Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. And so she has Alzheimer's and she's in a nursing home. And in order for him to help her remember, he had to kind of take her through the story of why they fell in love, how they fell in love, their journey, what they loved about each other. And so it kind of reminded me of, like, that's what we have to do sometimes, because we get caught up in the problem. We get caught up in, like, I'm hurt. I was disrespected. I'm not getting what I want. Right. We've all been there. And we forget about the great things that we fell in love with that person about, what we admired in them. And so I know it's hard. Trust me, I've been there, where you're like, I don't want to think about how great they are right now. I'm so mad. And so it's like, but if you can just stop and pause, I'm telling you, when you do those little things, it shifts your energy. We talked about this last week. It shifts your energy. Even if you're angry, even if you cautiously think about smiling, it can immediately change your outlook and your attitude. Yeah. There's this funny thing I do with CJ. CJ is my little kid. Well, he's not so little. He's almost as tall as me. And I do this thing with him. I say, don't smile. And he starts busting up, right? And so it's funny how your mind can do that to you when you want to, you got to be intentional with it. And so it's so important to go back to that place and that space in your mind where you're reminding yourself, because if you want it to change and you want it to improve, and Summer said this, a couple minutes ago about if you want that date night, if you want this to change, you have to be that. It was a Gandhi says, be the change, be the change.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, you have to embody what it is that you want. You can't just wish for it. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I know we hear all these things, but there has to be, that's what emotion is, action in motion.
Yes.
If you want those things, you have to put the action into motion. And so you want the date night, you want to have communication, you have to put the action into making that time intentionally with your partner and having that talk, planning that date night, what playing, you want to do board game, maybe you want to do a getaway and a small weekend trip. But you can't just say like, well, we never do this. But you got to ask yourself too, what are you doing in order to facilitate moving towards what it is that you want?
Absolutely. Bravo. I love all those tips. They are so important. Now I'm going to go back to something that Theodore Roosevelt called comparison. He called it the thief of joy. So he called it the thief of joy. And why? Because it can detract. It really can detract from something that is special, something that is meaningful, something that is unique. And that is your relationship. Special, unique, and something that's worth looking at, taking a deeper dive into. What this can cause is, it, as I said before, it can promote judgmental kind of bias and mindset. It can present competitive or superior attitudes. And to me, when I hear that it can like perpetuate superior attitudes, I'm like, ooh, that makes me feel oogie, right? So I'm like, that does not make me feel good at all. So when I think about it from that perspective, that's not what I want. That's not how I want to be in the world. That's not how I want to personally move through the world, nor do I want my relationship to be based on comparison, because our factors are so uniquely special to that relationship. Because get this, check this out. If we looked at that relationship, first of all, me and my husband and I are different, right? We're different. We're not the same as our neighbor, so to speak, that we would be comparing ourselves to. We come from different backgrounds. We were raised differently. And then together, what we create is so different because of those factors than just basics, right? Than our neighbors, because they come from different backgrounds. They were raised a different way. They saw modeling a different way, how that modeling went, like in regards to relationships, how that would impact their relationship potentially because of the modeling that they were raised with. So was my husband and I. We were raised a certain way. How we amended that or how we grew from that was specific to us, just like the other couple. Now, when you're getting into nuances like date nights, or you're getting into finances, or you're getting into like just basically getting along and communicating, what's number one in most relationships? What? The number one factor that's most important besides love?
Money.
Communication, lady.
Well, you know where my brain is.
Jen's eyebrow goes up.
Money.
And I'm like, communication, because you still, if money is a value, you still have to talk about it. You still need to be able to communicate about it, right? Mm-hmm. If you can't do that in regards to money, relations, I mean, special relations, if you can't do that about what your wants and needs are from each other, how you can give back to the other person, that's going to break down a relationship rather quickly, which gets me into the second part of this question. So this person asks, my husband and I, whenever my husband and I disagree, he always compares our relationship to others. So this gets me to, I've already told you what motivates this to happen, why people do the social comparison, and I also mentioned what this can do to a relationship. But what can you do to kind of halt that behavior, kind of amend that behavior? First off, and very simply, stop comparing your relationship to others. Stop. I know we see this. Stop the madness. Stop it. Okay. And then find happiness and gratitude about what is special about your relationship. This is so important. Stand in that relationship. stand there right now and understand, what is it that you love? What is it that you are grateful for about that relationship, about that union that you have together? Whether or not you're married, you know, what is it that drew you to that other person? What is special? What makes that special Summer and Glen cake? You know, all those ingredients, and you're mixing it all up. What makes that finished product? What makes that beautiful cake? Think about those ingredients, right? And then just stop looking at social media. Stop looking at social media as a point of comparison, because that is a false reality. That's like living in La La Land. Jen, you live in Los Angeles.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? It was like you were talking about that when we were on Instagram, and you know, I got to say, I have friends who are, you know, actors.
Yeah,
and I know the behind the scenes of what they're going through, and yet you see their credits in these shows or whatever, commercials, modeling things, and then you see the photo shoots, and yet I know the struggles behind the scenes. And it's really interesting, because I feel like I've been very fortunate where I've been in a place where I've seen behind the scenes in so many things, whether it was from being a financial advisor and having access to, you know, their statements and seeing the reality of what's going on with the money, and then having friends in certain industries where I see what's really going on behind the scenes, no pun intended, because they're actors. Yeah. And so it is really strange where people don't understand there is somewhat a facade, and there is this play that's happening right in front of you, but you don't know all the things. You don't know about the deleted scenes. You don't know about the things that were edited out. Yes. You got to remember that. You got to remember that you don't know the whole picture.
Yeah. True. Such really relevant and great points. Those are great points to take away for the day. I mean, if there's just some things that you can take away, if you have missed this will be on YouTube, on the Life, Love, and Money page with Summer and Jen YouTube page. Go check it out. We have how many episodes there, Jen, now?
This one will be the 32nd.
32nd.
Yeah.
My gosh, there is so much great content right there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today, right now. Okay, so the last couple of things I want to say is your relationship factors may be very different from somebody else's. So, you know, when you're like I'm going to go back to this analogy about making a cake. You know, when you're like certain bread needs leavening agent, right? So it like needs like, baking soda or baking powder. And those two things are different.
They are.
They are different, right?
I love it, because I remember when I was younger, I remember making some kind of baking thing, and I think I accidentally put salt instead of the sugar, and but you're so right. You put the wrong ingredient, you put the wrong amount, you will taste the mistake eventually.
Exactly. So your ingredients are different than other people's ingredients. It's not making the same kind of bread. It's not making a pie versus a loaf of bread. That is different. And how you make that can look very different. And how your relationship is compared to somebody else is very different because of those factors, because the ingredients are so different. So, I mean, you know, there's certain commonalities in relationships. We love, we want to improve, we want to have joy in that relationship or happiness in that. So those are like the beliefs, the value set, right? So we each have our own values, and those values we can determine and look at together. But when it comes to the ingredients and the nuances of those relationships, those are really significantly different. So I would say just, it's not worth it to compare, because really it's like comparing a banana to an orange. And it is a fruit, it is a relationship, but it is distinctly different in regards to what kind of fruit it is, where it comes from, how it's, you know, how it grows, yada, yada, yada. So with that said, let's get to our
nugget of the day. All right. So my nugget of the day is, you know, if you're in a relationship, I want you to go back to what we had talked about a few minutes ago, where you write this list of this person, your partner, whatever your situation is, and take yourself back to why you fell in love. Why what were those things that made you admire them, and have gratitude for them being in your life. Think about those things that they how do they enhance your life. You know what? And this could also be a great exercise, because if you find that you are struggling to write, that's something that's telling you, I need to reevaluate things. Because if you can't even be reminded and feel the energy to even write this list out, and if you can't get past 3, that's kind of like a red flag. So this either could be a really great positive exercise, or this could be a red flag revealing exercise. And not that the red flag is bad. Red flags are there to protect you. So I think it's really important for you to, do a self-check and evaluation, but, hopefully it'll, you going through that process and having that gratitude, that can make a dramatic shift in how you perceive one another, because that change starts with you. We talked about that, but you can't make that change if you don't first recognize the things that need to be addressed. How about you, Summer?
Gosh, I love that nugget. Thank you for that.
You're
My
welcome.
computer froze up, so I couldn't write in your nugget. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
So I'm like, I don't want to mess with too much here because it's frozen. So I'm like, oh, what happens behind the scenes? So my nugget is very similar to yours. We have been like on it this week. So aligned, right?
We are.
It's like, reflect on what you are grateful for within that relationship, about that relationship. You began somewhere in relation to how that began, what you loved about that person, what you still love about that person. Understand what that is today. If you feel like you've lost that, or you feel like you are growing away from each other, what can you do? You don't have to wait on anybody else. What is it that you can do to bring that connection back, to really kind of strengthen that relationship and those fibers of that relationship? What can you do? Start thinking about it. Don't compare it to other relationships. Don't look on social media. That is contrived. Those things are contrived. Others' relationships, you don't know those factors. You don't know their ingredients. You've got a certain set of ingredients. What were those ingredients that brought you together? What made that beautiful loaf of bread, right? How did you guys make that together? So look at the ingredients, and if something is missing, how can you put that back into that relationship? So
I love that baking analogy.
I know, it's kind of
We've been on it. We've been on point with some analogies this week.
We have.
Yeah, 'cause yesterday was the spinal lumbar L5 one.
Ooh, that was a good one.
And then today is the baking.
And today is the baking. Oh my gosh. Well, we want to thank each and every one of you for being with us, joining us today for the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and my great partner, Jen. So we will be here every Thursday. If you have a question for us, DM, direct message your question to @CoreWomen, the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen Facebook page, or even to our YouTube page, or our Life, Love, and Money Show Twitter page. We have pages all over. We're live right now in all these different
no excuses that you can reach at each of us easily.
Absolutely. If you are watching this on Jen's, personal page, go and DM Jen a question. We want to hear from you. You know what makes our day great is when you participate.
Oh yeah, seriously.
And then also go to our Life, Love, and Money page with Summer and Jen and subscribe today on YouTube. All right, everybody, we're going to take this out. Jen, thank you so much for being here with me and being my amazing partner. Blessings to you all. Take care. Woo!
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for watching the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Dr. Summer Watson is the owner of the production and coaching company Core Women, LLC, is a doctor of psychology, has a depth of experience working in both for-profit and nonprofit in human services and mental health, is a professional coach, seminar host, documentary film producer, and an author. Jen Fontanilla is a former financial advisor and now a certified money coach, speaker, and has published 6 books. She has worked with organizations such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, and the U.S. Air Force. She loves working with women and helps them master their money and mindset to empower them to build the ultimate life without worrying about money. Join Summer and Jen every week as they go live on the Life, Love, and Money Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn.